our program. Good morning, everyone, and happy Martin Luther King holiday. Welcome to this, the 27th annual Breakfast to Celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in Lancaster County, sponsored by the Crispus Attucks Community Center of Lancaster. This year's theme, The Journey to Justice. I'm Ron Martin of WGAL-TV, your Super Bowl station in about 2 weeks. It is an honor and a pleasure again, as always, to serve as your MC for this program. This is an observance that's both a day to remember and a call to service. We like to get our program started and get to breakfast, but first some opening remarks. And for that, we call upon our Breakfast Committee Chair, Ms. Laura Shantz, Director of Sales of Next Book Media. Laura?
Good morning. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day again, and welcome. We're thrilled that you're here, 650 strong. This morning I heard I Can Only Imagine on the radio, and this is what I imagine heaven will look like. With the diversity and the number of people that are here today, it really truly is a reflection of heaven and what it can be like here on earth as well. So we're glad that you're part of this. I have a few responsibilities to welcome you this morning. First responsibility I have is to thank the outstanding committee that helped put this together. It's just a tremendous group of individuals who have really poured a lot into making this breakfast possible. And if you're here or you're listed in the program and you've been helping us, would you stand very quickly, because we'd like to recognize you and your efforts this morning if you've been a part of the organizing committee. So please stand where you are very quickly, and we want to say thank you to each of you. As you rolled out of your warm bed this morning, you know that it's hard maybe to get here a little earlier than you normally do. But even before that, there was a group of people probably at 3 or 3:30 this morning groaning a little bit louder than we did. So let's thank the service staff this morning here at F&M. Their efforts don't go unnoticed or unappreciated. So just a few announcements for you this morning. There's 2 wonderful young men in the back of the room. I think it's RJ and his friend, let's see, I can't remember RJ's friend name, but there are 2 really sharp guys back there selling raffle tickets for a 55-inch TV. You can watch it on Ron Martin's Super Bowl station. What was that again, Ron? Yeah. So it's 1 raffle ticket for $5 or 5 tickets for $20. And so if you didn't bring any cash, that's okay. We've got some of those squares. We'll sell you some of those raffle tickets. All proceeds benefit the Crispus Attucks Center. So please participate if you're able. Around your table, we want to thank Nancy Shank for her artistic abilities. You'll see some roses in front of you, and they may be in a bouquet or in separate bottles, but we are selling those to benefit the Crispus Attucks Center. So as you leave today, if you'd like to take one of those single bottles with you, you're welcome to do that for $5 a bottle. You can grace your own table or give someone a thank you gift this morning, or it's $25 for a bouquet of those flowers. So we'd appreciate your support as you leave. There'll be folks that are taking payment for that as well. So later on today, after our breakfast, we want to invite you or a teenager that you know to stop at the Crispus Attucks Center from noon until 5 today. There's going to be a teen event that's free and open to the public. It's from noon until 5 at the Crispus Attucks Center in Lancaster, and it'll be in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., of course. And so we'd like to welcome all the teens to that. As we get started here after the invocation for the breakfast, there are 4 buffet lines. If you're like me, you're intensely curious about the food there. And all those buffet lines are the same. So you'll be dismissed. You can go up and down either side of those tables, and all the food and all the lines are the same. Last but not least, there is an envelope at your table with a pen. And if you're so inclined, we'd love to have your support, either in the form of prayer or volunteerism for Crispus Attucks Center. And you can check off your way that you'd like to support the Crispus Attucks Center. So there's a blue envelope, a blue a blue card, and a white envelope there in front of you with a pen. If you'd like to support the Crispus Attucks Center in any way, and financially, of course, you can mark that and make a donation here this morning. We are really thrilled about the attendance. There are nearly 650 people, almost 100 more than last year, and we're grateful to our keynote speaker and our team, and certainly our sponsors for helping to make this possible. We're really thrilled about that. So as we get started here this morning, I'm pleased to be a part of the team at Next Book Media that's helped to volunteer. And Adam Miller, our pixel pusher, has helped us put together a video that we'd like to show you today. We asked Barb Rhoda, our honorary chair, Ted Darkus, the board chair of the Crispus Attucks Center, myself, and Cheryl Holland-Jones, the executive director, to give a few remarks this morning on what the journey to justice means. And so I believe that when we are in heaven, I can imagine that it'll look like this. But until then, we are committed and we are called to serve together on the journey to justice. So watch with me now as we share some remarks about the journey to justice. Thank you. To me, the journey to justice means that in every generation, there's some injustice that's going to exist in this world. If we can walk together in our lifetime, that's the best we can do, then our lives will have made a difference and they'll have meaning in our time and in our place and in our communities.
To me, the journey of justice means the fact of being able to see the work that others have done and the input that they have given this community, and then to see the other people, the young people now, being able to pick up and carry that mantle. And hopefully as years go by, we will continually see others continually to follow that journey. And that's so important.
My dream is really what the journey is all about, that, we end up living in a world where everyone experiences the dignity and the opportunities and the equality and the fairness and the justice that they deserve.
What motivates me to be a part of Crispus Attucks is that it's kind of been a life journey for me, trying to ensure that everybody gets the basics in life, the basics of, the food, shelter, and clothing. Those are things that everyone should have available to them, and that if there is something that Crispus Attucks and we can do to help ensure that, then that's what we should do, and that's what we do.
I think that the breakfast continues to keep the dream alive. And so as we all are sitting in this room and the dream lives on, it's annual events like this that prick our conscience, that call us to action, that compel us to act. And so I think that the breakfast not only keeps the doors open, but it keeps the dream alive. And that's incredibly important.
We've come a long way, but we've certainly got a long way to go. That's what we all should be working toward, ensuring that everybody gets their fair share.
Thank you, Laura, Ted, Barbara, Cheryl, for keeping the dream alive. It's now time for breakfast, and with our invocation and the blessing of our meal, we now call upon the Reverend Timothy Menser, the senior pastor of Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, who will give the invocation. Reverend Menser is a Crispus Attucks board member, a longtime Crispus Attucks board member and supporter.
Would you please stand? Let us pray. God, you created all people in your image. Teach us to see the wonderful diversity of races and cultures in this world as a gift that gives us a glimpse of your glory and delight. As we see each life as a gift, move us away from seeing the lives of those who frighten us or for whom we feel hate as antimatter, a very threat to our existence. May the lives of others come to have significance in our lives, not because they have been killed, but because they have life in your holy name. Almighty and everlasting God, you kindled the flame of your love in the heart of your holy martyr, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Give to us, your humble servants, a faith like his and a power of love, that we who rejoice in his triumph may profit by his example. Your holy and life-giving Spirit moved in the life of Dr. King. May it so move in every human heart. May your life-giving Spirit continue to stir the hearts of the police officers of our county and city as they take our children Christmas shopping, play basketball with them, and reach out in love. Lead us quickly to the day when a police officer and a young person in our neighborhoods walk toward each other with a smile of recognition instead of running in fear. May your holy and life-giving Spirit bring us to a day when we no longer need our county jail, until the fire of your Spirit engulf the lives of those in our criminal justice system, so that it may be blind to race and crystal clear in justice. Bring consolation to the victims of crimes. Lead those incarcerated to repent of their actions and a desire to make amendment of their lives. Help those who work in our jail to see that though the inmates are in cages like animals and have committed acts that we find repulsive, these inmates are human beings. May your life-giving Spirit create divine dissonance in the minds of those who are convinced that a gun is a solution to a problem. Even more, Lord, we dare to ask for divine dissonance in the minds of those convinced that they have a God-given right to a gun. Let them hear the words of the Apostle Paul echo in the chambers of their hearts. All things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. May your life-giving Spirit continue to stir and brood over the work of Crispus Attucks Community Center. Stir up the creative spirits of those in the arts so that the children of our city can catch a glimpse of a world beyond fear, poverty, and hatred. Bless their work with police officers and minority youth as they help both realize they have the same fear of coming home at night alive. As our work is demanding, Lord, use this food we are about to eat to strengthen us for service in your name. Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you, Reverend Menser, for the invocation and for all you do for Crispus Attucks. We now turn our program over to the F&M catering personnel who will release your table for the buffet. So please wait for your table to be directed, and we'll proceed on with our program again in about 30 minutes. Thank you, and enjoy. Right now, and And would Clarisse Ware please come forward to release our tables? Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about ready to resume our program. First of all, can we have a round of applause for the staff here at F&M for that wonderful breakfast? Now, as you're finishing up, we have a few announcements we'd like to make. The first is a reminder about the beautiful rose centerpieces at your tables. We'd like you to know that they can be purchased, the vase and the flowers, for just $25. The proceeds will go toward programming at the Crispus Attucks Community Center. You can purchase flower arrangements after the breakfast is ended by picking up a vase of roses from one of the tables and going to the registration area to see the cashier. We thank committee member Nancy Gingrich Shank for arranging these beautiful centerpieces. We also have a number of elected officials with us this morning. Would you please stand as I read your names? First of all, State Senator Ryan Almond, State Senator Lloyd Smucker, State Representative P. Michael Sturla, County Commissioner Craig Lehman, the Mayor of the City of Lancaster, the Honorable J. Richard Gray, City Council President John Grappera, Louise Williams, Barbara Wilson, James Reichenbach, Denise Charest, and Pete Soto. Can we have a round of applause for those elected officials? Also with us this morning are a number of officials from higher education. With the following college presidents who are in attendance, please stand. From Franklin and Marshall College, Dr. Daniel Porterfield. From Thaddeus Stevens College, Dr. William Griscom. And from the School District of Lancaster, the Superintendent, Pedro Rivera. If there are any other officials of higher education who are here, please stand. Thank you. Elizabethtown College? No? Okay. Millersville? Okay. There are also members of the clergy in the audience. As you all know, the support of the clergy for this event is extremely rewarding because it helps to remind us that Dr. King was a member of the clergy himself as he advocated for civil rights for all. Will members of the clergy who are here today please stand? Thank you. At this time, we have a spoken word presentation, and it is a pleasure now to introduce to you A. Lee Brinson of Lancaster to perform an original piece entitled Swimming Upstream in America.
This is a public service announcement. While swimming upstream in America, you must keep afloat. You don't want to stop and drown. And take notes, or you might want to jot this down, because these quotes, the hottest thing that's been found since Mount Vesuvius burned up that town, Pompeii. Oh, I used to sip the Bombay back when. I used to think that crime paid. My friends, I could count on one hand. I'm only one man, and I overstand that we suffer from lack of unity, and we will never see equality till you and her and him and me decide. We won't stand for genocide. Our youth, give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter take us to the very next chapter. Don't get caught up in the lie or rapture. Modern day slaves, and yes, we are still captured by the boob tube, Facebook, and YouTube actors, acting like they are the black man's savior, riddling keeping our behavior stable. Keep your hands above table. No fast moves, and I won't have to gauge you. Trust you, never will and never have. Dude, you're bad for me, like asbestos in fast food, a catastrophe under the surface waiting to happen. And you wonder why black folks constantly be snapping. Look at the past, black. Look at the past, black. Matter of fact, look at the past, Jack. No respect for those who think we've passed that. Malcolm X said you got to stand for something or fall for anything. But Dr. King, I fear we've overcome nothing. And I ain't beating the dead horse or promoting negativity. I'm simply stating the facts and playing the cards that are given me. Because every once in a while, when a prophet speaks out, he's silenced. 9 times out of 10, his life ends in violence. And if we write or rap about it, the critics say, oh, it's them again. You don't think we're swimming upstream in America, America? 2 words, George Zimmerman.
Ladies and gentlemen, A. Lee Brinson, Swimming Upstream in America. Well done, my brother. It's now an honor to introduce a man who's very instrumental in making this day possible, Dr. Dan Porterfield, Franklin and Marshall College's 15th president and a Rhodes Scholar of English. Under Dr. Porterfield's leadership, the college has recruited some of the most talented and diverse classes in its history, a true testament to the legacy of Dr. King. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Porterfield.
Thank you, Ron, for that introduction. Mr. Brinson, that was fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing that poem with us. And our gratitude today goes out to the MLK Breakfast Planning Committee, which includes a number of representatives of Crispus Attucks Community Center, especially Barbara Holland-Jones. The Next Book Media, it's fantastic to be working with you to support this, and many thanks to the faculty and staff and students of Franklin and Marshall College, especially those that helped to prepare this breakfast for us today and to serve us, clean the parking lot so that we could park safely. Thank you to all who are working today. Please join me in thanking the F&M staff. F&M is so proud to welcome you to our own multicultural, multi-religious, multi-generational community of learning. And we take great inspiration in the majestic words of Dr. King when he said in his final Sunday sermon in Washington, D.C., "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be all that I ought to be unless you are all that you ought to be. And you cannot be all that you ought to be unless I am all that I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. This is the way God's universe is made." So said Dr. King. And each year we convene to celebrate the living legacy of this great American. But context matters. Each year is a new year. We've lived 12 months since the last time that we convened. And so we must celebrate and bear witness differently. Now this year, we are witnessing the history of the journey to justice in many ways, cognizant of all those 50-year milestones, especially the 50th anniversary of the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Monuments in the journey to justice that this country created for itself, led by our civil rights leaders, led by the African American community. We're witnesses to history. But we also are today witnesses to tragedy. We have witnessed and experienced together anger, confusion, sadness, frustration, loss, grief in the last 12 months. Partly, it's the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, the death of Tamir Rice in Cleveland, the death of Eric Garner in Staten Island, a death that we can all watch on YouTube, and many in this room I know, like me, have. We have witnessed the death of 2 police officers just recently, Wei Jing Liu Rafael Ramos. I've just listed 5 men of color who died in the 12 months since we gathered together. And so Dr. King would say to us today that witnessing the history of the journey to justice is just not enough. We must witness the unfolding reality of the journey to justice, which requires us to engage the moment in real ways, to engage the moment by looking honestly at what has not been moments of greatness for our country and what we must fix together. Because witnessing is not simply and only listening. Witnessing requires action. When we bear witness, we absorb with all of our senses and all of our intellect the full reality of another person's pain or experience of hardship. And then informed by that knowledge and enlarged by that knowledge, we move forward in action. Sometimes the path is not clear where to go, but witnessing requires a living commitment to continuous action. That is what Franklin and Marshall College is here to do. In challenging times, this school has acted and will continue to act. As many of you may have read the story in the Washington Post and the front page of Lancaster newspaper over the holidays, in which national media and local media described the investment that our Board of Trustees made now 6 years ago in doubling our need-based financial aid budget. One of our trustees, Peggy Steinman, is here today. And as participants in the journey to justice, our board, our faculty, our students have implemented that doubling of our need-based aid budget in ways that have drawn national attention, because we have doubled, among other things, the percentage of students of color in the F&M community. We have tripled the percentage of students who come to F&M supported by federal Pell Grants, which means they're in the bottom 40% or so of American household incomes. And as we doubled the community of color and as we tripled the lower income students at Franklin and Marshall College, we have increased the academic excellence of the school. Thank you. We are not yet in the promised land. We are journeying together towards the promised land. Authentic in our identity as a leading liberal arts college in the country, and our discovery, renewing, beautiful, is that by expanding opportunity and opening the doors to others from the full American mosaic, every student benefits, every professor benefits. The school becomes more true to its academic mission, and that makes us more than we were as we grow together. Faculty, students, alums, staff, all together. We are growing, we hope, growing and walking towards the promised land, committed to learning as we go and to making the next stage of changes that the moment requires. When you look at our students today, the real students, you see young women and men full of promise, who believe in Dr. King's message, and at the same time will challenge us as a school and challenge as a society to live Dr. King's message and to create his vision in the year 2015. We have 2 organizations created by our students that I'll tell you about for a second. They are called Sisters and Impact. The presidents of Sisters and Impact are here today. Kiki Green and Caitlin Oliver are the presidents of Sisters, which stands for Sophisticated, Intelligent Sisters Teaching Excellence, Responsibility, and Success. Sisters, and that was a community of students that maybe numbered 10 or 15 6, 7 years ago, and now the room is bursting every meeting with dozens and dozens of intelligent sisters from all around the country, making the school live its promise. And then there's Cameron Rutledge, who's the president of Impact, who's here today. Intelligent men, purposely accomplishing college together. Impact, the same story. Quadruple, quintuple, whatever the word would be, times 8, times 9, the number of young men in Impact. Bringing young men together to say, how do we live our commitment to walk in the path of Dr. King? And listen to the oath of impact. Let me close with that. Listen to the oath of impact. Decide for yourself if this speaks to you. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do what I can do. For there is no one quite like me, and I can make an impact. And so I would submit to you today, as I listen to the words of impact and sisters, F&M's growing and developing community of students, that while we are witnesses to the history of the journey to justice, and while we must be witnesses to tragedy in the moment on the journey to justice, we also are witnesses to hope on the journey for justice. And that hope resides in our young. The future of this country is in good hands. We must take the steps we can today to support the future they will create for all of us tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Barbara Hof-Rhoda. Barbara has been the executive editor of Lancaster News since 2013, has enjoyed an illustrious career since joining that extraordinary organization in 1982. A graduate of Elmhurst College, she is the former district director of the Pennsylvania Women's Press Association and a volunteer in Penn Manor School District. Ms. Hof-Rhoda.
Good morning. As we were putting the finishing touches on what you're experiencing today, I was out for breakfast just last week with my daughter at a local restaurant. And as we enjoyed our conversation, not to mention the waffles and eggs that went with it, I couldn't help but overhear a conversation that was commencing at the table just a couple feet away from me. It was a group of men enjoying coffee. They were in some kind of a study group. And I was especially interested when one of the men extolled the virtues of a country, our America, born of a melting pot that he described as a national strength. But then he shook his head. Diversity, he said, is a weakness because we don't have a common set of values anymore. I turned back to my child, beautiful, smart, fiercely loyal to family and friends, a young girl with very, very big dreams. And just as I sat there and looked at her, an Asian American, I now look out on this richly diverse breakfast gathering of more than 600 people from throughout our Lancaster County community. We are our community. We are young, we are older, and somewhere in between. We are men and women. We have very big bank accounts, and we worry whether our pennies will take us to the next paycheck. We are black, we are white, and we are Latino. We claim different political affiliations, and we are of myriad faiths. We tend to livestock in our farms, and we build houses, and we run newsrooms. Some of us desperately need a job. Others of us are business owners. We've dropped out of school, we attend school. We believe we live in a just world. We believe that justice discriminates. And yet we have made our way to this place at this hour, on this day, to celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. because his words and his vision, as we emphasize today in our editorial, still speak to us. We are here because we support the mission of Crispus Attucks, and we are here because we care deeply about our community. We know we are flawed, sometimes more flawed than we would like to admit, but we still believe that it is only together that we can make life here better for everyone in our community. So as you might have surmised, I don't agree one bit with the man who was sitting at the breakfast table last week just a few feet away from me and my daughter. Diversity by its very nature should create a deeper understanding, a softer kindness, an abiding respect, an expansive opportunity, and a recommitment to all that is just. This morning really is a call to action. What we say and what we do here matters a lot. But the challenge begins when this breakfast is over. It begins when we take the words that we say, the exchanges that we have, what we hear and what we listen today, that we take them with us out into the world and put them to use in a meaningful way this afternoon, tomorrow, the next day, and all the days that follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. It is now my honor to introduce a woman whose dedication has been a true blessing to the Crispus Attucks Community Center of Lancaster. She is Executive Director Cheryl Holland-Jones, who will now preside over some award presentations. Cheryl.
Good morning, and thank you for coming to this, our 27th annual Martin Luther King Breakfast. 92 years as an agency, 27 years for a breakfast. We have been on this journey for quite some time now. This year, as every year, this particular event for Crispus Attucks is always very humbling and gratifying to me. Crispus Attucks, along with its sponsors, are able to provide a venue that brings the most diverse and largest group of people together in our city of Lancaster. I want you to take a moment and just look around and embrace that you are part of Dr. King's vision. Just think about that for a moment. Look at your audience. Look at who's here today. You're part of that vision. You know, our theme this year is a journey to justice. Every year we pick a theme, but this year I really felt that this theme spoke to our community and our world. Dr. King spent most of his life trying to right many wrongs in our world. And as you know, that's a difficult task. But he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It is a call for us to never become complacent. Today, being here means you clearly understand that and you're ready to take action and ensure positive progress for our community. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we, doing for others? The first thing, of course, is to ask the question, answer it, and move forward to make a positive change in helping to right a wrong that you can take ownership of. You know, some of the people who clearly understand the question, what are you doing for others, are some of the people we are honoring today. It's always been an honor and a privilege to acknowledge people who have given extraordinary service to Crispus Attucks Community Center and to our community with the Ruby Payne Cook and Essence of Humanity Award. Now, let me begin by calling to our stage our presenters who will be presenting the awards and who will also deserve to be recognized at this time as they continue to provide Crispus Attucks the special work that they do. Ted Darkus, Crispus Attucks Board President, Laura Shantz with Next Book Media, Darrell Gordon, MLK Committee Member, and Robin Stauffer, Executive Director of High Foundation. We're going to begin with honoring Ms. Roberta Anderson, who unfortunately is not with us today due to health, but we're going to ask her daughter Danielle Brown to please come forward to receive her Mother's Award. Roberta Anderson had worked for Crispus Attucks for many years, but had also worked for many other agencies before coming to Crispus Attucks. But she says that Crispus Attucks was the agency that she enjoyed most. That was one of her most rewarding jobs. She also says that it was imperative that people realize the importance that Crispus Attucks made to the Lancaster community, being the oldest African-American organization in the community. It serves to help educate young people and expose them to a cultural history that many would like to forget. But she implores us not to forget the power of this organization and is proud to have been part of the change process. Now she's received numerous awards, but hopefully this one will be a special one for her because as she has worked for Crispus Attucks and made a major impact as she worked with the homeless shelter. And now Danielle, please come forward. And our next award will be for Mark Miller. Mark, will you come forward? Mark has been, about 4 years ago, Grace Ubuntu Fellowship began a rental and supportive relationship with Crispus Attucks Community Center. Mark is one of these volunteers that whatever you ask, he does. He's there, he's committed, and so Mark means a lot to us at Crispus Attucks. He also helps in our food bank, in which twice a month, 200 families are served, and he's there regularly and religiously. Thank you, Mark. And now, Joe and Anna Moore, if they would come forward. Joe and Anna Moore are, again, two volunteers who, whatever you ask, they do. You know how you have some people who, no matter what you ask, you know it will be done if they say they're going to do it, and they do. And they have been real activists, social activists as well, and believe in the cause of Crispus Attucks and the many things they do in the community as a whole. Joe and Anna also provide the TV that we get for the breakfast to raffle off, and they've done that now. I think this is for the 3rd year. So we appreciate them, and we really want to give them honor for just being the kind of volunteers that all of us would want in our agencies. Thank you, Joe and Anna. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now, for our Essence of Humanity Award. I'm sure that many of us, if not all of us, know Dr. Rita Smith-Waddell. She has made a tremendous impact in our community as a whole, and of course at Millersville University. But Rita is one of these people who, again, if you ask her to do something, you know for sure that it will be done, and it will be done with every T crossed and every I dotted. Dr. Rita Smith-Waddell is a professor of psychology and African American studies at Millersville University, where she also created the African American Studies program. She has worked with the Women's Studies Department and has been instrumental in the creation of the Latino Studies minor at Millersville. She excelled as a student in the nation's segregated capital and won the Washington Citywide Science Fair in the 8th grade. She would later go on to college at an Ivy League school, achieving highly in both Columbia and the University of Pennsylvania. She has striven to serve the underserved, particularly people of color, the poor, the mentally ill. But what makes her story especially courageous is that since 2008, she pursued all of this while battling triple-negative breast cancer. She did not stop when she first was diagnosed and has not stopped when she learned that cancer has moved now to her lung. Rita Smith Waddell's life and work has always been about putting the needs of others first. She is persistent in the face of disease and the face of loss, the face of turmoil, and in the face of those who told her she couldn't, because we know that she will and that she does. Rita, please come forward. Okay, that precludes our awardee part. But now I am going to introduce Miss Aquila Santiago, an honor student from Lincoln Middle School and a member of the Crispus Attucks infamous Unstoppable Drill Team and Drum Squad, who will now introduce our speaker, Michelle Bernard.
An attorney by training, Michelle D. Bernard is a political analyst, media commentator, author, and president and CEO of the Bernard Center for Women. Politics and public policy concentrating on matters of racial, social, and gender justice and the advancement of democracy, economic liberty and the human rights of women, and ethnic and religious minorities globally. Named in the November 2014 issue of Essence magazine as a rising star. On its Money and Power list, she appears on CNN's McCormick and MSNBC's Hardball with Chris Matthews, HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher and the McLaughlin Group. She is a contributor for the Washington Post, She the People, and the Huffington Post, and is a regular commentator on NPR. In 2009, she co-created and hosted MSNBC's About Our Children. She is the author of Naming the Sin, Our Churches Helping to Stop Domestic Violence or Enabling It, Sojourners, December 2013, Moving America Toward Justice, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, 1963 through 2013, Women's Progress, How Women Are Wealthier, Healthier, and More Independent Than Ever Before, 2007, and is a contributing author to the Lifetime Network Secrets of Powerful Women. 25 successful American politicians tell how they got where they are. And What It's Like, 2010, and the National Urban League State of Black America 2009, Message to the President 2009. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy and Political Science from Howard University, a Juris Doctor degree from Howard University, doctor degree from the Georgetown University Law Center. As a young female teenager, I am looking forward to hearing Ms. Bernard, as I know you are. So please join me in welcoming her with an applause. Ms. Bernard.
I could have never done that when I was 13. Akila, thank you so much. Good morning and Happy New Year to all of you. And Akila, again, thank you for that very generous and articulate and quite confident introduction. I want to also thank the Lancaster community and everyone at the Crispus Attucks Community Center for the kind hospitality you have shown my husband and I. We celebrated our 3-week wedding anniversary on Saturday, and we are both very honored to be here with you today. I am particularly honored to be here. We were talking at our table earlier as I guess we would call it an alum of Host Farm in Dutch Wonderland. This is my first time being back in Lancaster since I was a child. My parents and their friends and all of the children used to come here once every summer for vacation, and I have very wonderful memories of that time. I am particularly honored to be here in support of the continued mission of the Crispus Attucks Community Center and all of the work they have done in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania community for the last 88 years. It's really humbling and an honor to speak on the day we celebrate a man who spent his entire life's work fighting for social justice and peace. It is also amazing to stand here and know that almost 50 years later, we celebrate progress, yet we are still haunted by polarizing and very different views of race and privilege. Cleveland, Ohio, a toy gun, a 12-year-old child. His discipline was 2 bullets from police. It only took 1 to kill him. Brooklyn, New York, a darkened stairwell, 1 police officer with a gun, 1 African-American man, an unarmed African-American man. The police officer shoots him, and he said he did so because the stairwell was dark and he was startled. Gated Florida community, 1 African-American teenager, unarmed. The teenager is followed home. He is shot. The man who shot him did so because he felt he was suspicious. He is acquitted of any charges. Those are only 3 stories, but we have heard all of the news reports. We have seen the horror. We know these names. We know what we are facing, and we are still in mourning. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, John Crawford, NYPD officers Rafael Ramos and Wei-Jon Liu. All of these lives and more destroyed by violent acts of senseless rage. In communities where poverty is an everyday reality and opportunities are scarce, particularly for African American and Latino young men, the resulting crisis of this disproportionality is a brewing conflict that has exploded. These are the roots where the formation of frustration, tension, judgments, and hatred stir. Some may be trapped in cycles of poverty, unemployment, or low-paying jobs, generations of incarceration and substance abuse, depression, or what the author Terry Williams has simply called black pain. Some of these problems still exist right here today in 2015 in Lancaster County. The numbers from the Lancaster County Relative Rate Index are disturbing. A picture of disproportionality in the juvenile justice system has emerged. Black children are arrested at a rate 4 times greater than that of white children. Latino children are arrested almost 2 times as often as white children. If you are a black child in Lancaster, you are almost 2 times more likely than white children of the same age to be arrested. If your child is Latino, he or she is 2 times more likely to be referred to the juvenile system than white children of a different origin. And there are many counties and countries in this country that have similar problems and similar numbers to Lancaster. So today I speak to you as the president of the Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy, as a political analyst, as a media commentator, as an attorney, and all of the other things that Akila mentioned when she introduced me. But I also speak to you as the mother of 2 young children and as the daughter of Jamaican immigrants whose genetic heritage reflects all that America is. I think Barbara earlier today mentioned the melting pot. Our president has shared the story of his family's melting pot. And I want to do the same with you about mine today so that you can see that truly we are all one. My ancestors were from African descent. If DNA testing is correct, at least on my mother's side, we hail from Cameroon. But we're also Jamaica's native indigenous population called the Arawaks, Chinese, and Scottish. I am nearly 6 feet tall, and I'm very clearly black, and unapologetically so. I have cousins who are barely 5 feet tall with blonde hair and blue eyes, and who are as white in appearance as many of you. Other members of my family appear black, some appear Chinese, some appear a little bit of both. I have a niece who, when she was a child, used to say that her father was silver. My husband is the son of an African-American father from the South and a white mother from the Midwest. My niece asked her mother if he was peach. His skin is the color of ivory and his eyes are green. Like you, we love and admire every branch of our glorious ancestry and recognize that we are a family before we are anything else. It is the totality of our ancestry, heritage, and common experiences that make all of God's children great. So in essence, I speak to you today first and foremost as an American. Now on August 18th, 2014, I appeared on MSNBC's Hardball with Chris Matthews. The topic of the segment I participated in that day was the aftermath of the shooting of Michael Brown, an unarmed African-American teenager who was gunned down by police in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, just 2 weeks before. That day, as we discussed the shooting death of Michael Brown, we began to discuss the truly ugly realities of race and the sentiments behind the decision of the police officer involved in Ferguson to kill an unarmed 18-year-old Vatterott College-bound African-American child. As you know, the police officer was white. Now, on the program, I said that I felt that it seems as if America has declared a war on black boys and black men in our country. Fox News host Bill O'Reilly stated on his show that he was so incensed by what I said that he decided to cut his vacation short and blast against my, quote, disgraceful comment that there is a war on black men in this country. Now, I've spent many years of my life, whether as an attorney or president of the Bernard Center, doing my best to be a foot soldier for justice, as many of our ancestors, black and white, have done tirelessly. And so I recognize Mr. O'Reilly's right to hold a different opinion of what is happening in America today than do I. In fact, I don't fear Mr. O'Reilly's or anyone else's anger, because my father has always told my sisters, brother, and I to fear no man, and we don't. In reflecting on Mr. O'Reilly's anger, I think of Jane Austen's observation in Pride and Prejudice that angry people are not always wise. So instead, I empathize with the fear that caused Mr. O'Reilly's anger and with the anger of others, because I know that anger, when used for good, can be used to take a stand and work towards removing the barriers that separate us from real progress. So I welcome disagreements and discourse. It is sometimes the only path to cleaning out old wounds and reaching mutual understanding. But what should truly incense those who don't believe there is a war against unarmed African American men in this country is that in the year 2015, nearly 50 years since Dr. King was assassinated, we are still dealing with racial profiling and gun violence in what should be the greatest nation on earth. What should infuriate anyone who doesn't believe that there is a war against unarmed African American boys and men in this country is that not only are our boys and our men being killed, but those who are doing the killing are not being held accountable. What should enrage anyone who doesn't believe that there is a war against unarmed African American men and boys in this country is the living reality that too many African Americans, men and women, are judged strictly on misperception and stereotype, and the first perception is often fear of our blackness. On a recent episode of NBC's Meet the Press, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani said that the only reason there was such a heavy white police presence in New York City is to keep the, quote, blacks from killing each other. When guest host Michael Eric Dyson countered him by saying, and I quote Dr. Dyson, "Blacks who kill each other go to jail. White cops who kill blacks are not going to jail." Giuliani looked at Dr. Dyson and he said, and I quote, "White police officers wouldn't be there if you weren't killing each other 70% of the time." Now notice the words he used, you, as if you, indicating Michael Eric Dyson, simply because he is African American, is no different than a killer. In 1988, a year after Bill and Camille Cosby's son Ennis was shot on a Los Angeles highway while changing a flat tire on his car, Camille Cosby opened up in an interview with USA Today. She stated that she believed America taught her son's killer to hate African Americans. She said that her son's killer had grown up in Ukraine, where he wasn't exposed to the racism and stereotypes hurled against African Americans and other people of color in the United States. So when you hear people, black or white, declaring that there is a war on black boys and men, you must understand that we are talking about a kind of mindset, a mindset of prejudiced thoughts against people, a race of people deemed as inferior and dangerous and subsequently targeted and sometimes gunned down with no killer going punished. I will always be the first to say that America is a great nation, but she is also a divided nation. Our ancestors and forefathers built this country and shaped it into something we could be proud of, a country our children should be proud of rather than scared. When wrongs and injustices permeate our landscape, we all work together to make America right, to make it safe, to make America fit the eloquent words from the Declaration of Independence, which I love so much, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Dr. King understood so clearly that in order for this nation to move forward from the ugly history of enslavement, to right the wrongs was to make those words ring true in the lives of every American citizen. Social justice should belong to all of us. Economic justice should belong to all of us. Gender justice should belong to all of us. Racial justice should belong to all of us. Now, 2 years ago, I was asked by the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law to write a book highlighting their accomplishments and dedication to civil rights and social justice on their 50th anniversary. It was an honor to speak with some of the 244 lawyers that President Kennedy asked to become this special committee to help him, right after the death of Medgar Evans, take the battle for civil rights from the streets to the courts. The work done by much of the lawyers was pro bono publico, for the good of the people. Many of these lawyers worked courageously alongside civil rights activists, advocates, community leaders, and clergy to ensure that we could eliminate racial discrimination wherever it existed. Now, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law still works tirelessly in their efforts today in their mission to move America toward justice, which parallels the mission of the Crispus Attucks Community Center in their work to serve others and to serve those who are marginalized, to offer sound solutions and answers to some of the most challenging social and economic issues facing those who are disenfranchised. There is a reason why the movie Selma resonates so powerfully with the audience, and if you haven't seen the movie yet, I urge you to see it. It is a movie that will stay with you for the rest of your life. It is for this reason why distributors are working with communities to offer the movie for free viewing to middle and high school students all over the country. Akila, I hope you've seen the movie. If not, we'll make sure that somebody takes you to see it very soon. Because those events of Bloody Sunday on March 7th, 1965 in Selma, Alabama, depict a time when the right to vote was such a basic human right that Americans, black and white, were willing to die for it. It is impossible to look at the lessons of the past and not be inspired to grow, to work together, and to stand together. It was Dr. King's message of love that moved others to act. His ability to embrace peace and nonviolence was what he strongly believed was a moral obligation. But he was also a fierce critic of the apathetic. In his 1958 book, Strive Towards Freedom, in which he recalled the events surrounding the Montgomery bus boycott of 1956 and 57, Dr. King wrote, and I quote him here, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps perpetuate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it." So I want to leave you with something that I discovered when I was a young and undergraduate at Howard University. Dr. Porterfield, I hope that you will forgive Ron Martin and I for attending Howard over Franklin and Marshall, maybe in a next lifetime. In 1968, two young social psychologists, Bibb Latané of Columbia University and John Darley of New York University, published a series of experiments regarding those who see a crisis unfolding or happening and literally stand by the wayside and they don't offer help. Now, this is important. I hope Mr. O'Reilly is watching the live stream. They were inspired to create the study because of a horrific case of a woman named Kitty Genovese, who was murdered in the early morning hours on a New York city street by a serial rapist and killer who repeatedly stabbed her over a period of 30 minutes in full view of 38 witnesses. Many residents of the neighborhood peeked out of their apartment window and saw what had happened after they heard her screaming and her pleas for help, and even after he assaulted her and returned a few minutes later, continuing to stab her. Now, the social psychologist discovered that when students in their experiment were alone with a victim, a man who was pretending to be experiencing a seizure, or when students were in the company of only a few other students, the students actually noticed that something was wrong, that what was happening was an emergency, and that they had a responsibility to help. They made the decision to call for help, and help was granted to the man who was actually just a participant in the experiment. Something entirely different happened when it was a much larger group of students in the company, again, of the man pretending to be experiencing a seizure. Latané and Bibb coined the term of what they observed, diffusion of responsibility, meaning that in a larger group, the students believed someone else would step in to help. They simply didn't feel that it was something that they should get involved with because there was someone else probably more qualified to help the victim. Their reaction time was slow because even though they saw an emergency or saw that something not quite right was happening right in front of their faces, they stood there still trying to figure out the situation and look around at other people and to see if other people are reacting or not reacting to the emergency that is happening right before their face. They don't want to engage because they don't want to get involved. I mention that study today because, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that we are in the middle of an emergency in this country. It is happening right in front of us. It is happening, and too many Americans are still trying to look around, observe, and try to ascertain whether Black lives matter. We have a moral obligation to act. I say to you, we have a moral obligation to help. Thank you. We have a moral obligation to reach out to one another, to offer assistance in times of trouble. We have a moral obligation to listen to one another and try our hardest to put ourselves in the shoes of others. We have a moral obligation to tell our friends and our enemies the realities of race and privilege in America, even when they don't want to recognize it. And we have a moral obligation, thank you, to respect and engage with one another in civil discourse. And we have to act now, and we have to act swiftly. Beacons like Dr. King have shown us that when we cling together arm in arm like a human chain, when we are united, we are unbreakable. We know that in order to face the demonic evils that seek to harm our children, our sons, our husbands, and destroy our families, we must all bond and work together to defuse it. That includes Mr. O'Reilly, who I pray will see the light. As Dr. King once said, our lives begin to end the day we are silent about things that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, it is as an American first that I say to you today that Black lives matter. I thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bernard, for those powerful words and words for us to take with us as we leave this room today and figure out what it is that we each can do to make our world a better world. We certainly have the opportunity to do so, and we've heard the message today. This is also a very special time for me to thank our sponsors who have provided you this wonderful opportunity to come today to actually be a part of the Martin Luther King dream. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking Franklin and Marshall College, who, of course, as our event sponsor, has certainly done a great job, as always, in helping us to bring forth this event. So we thank Dr. Porterfield and his very capable staff. Thank you so much. And of course, all of the sponsors are extremely important to us, and we appreciate all that you do. But I'd really like to mention our Dreammaker sponsors, who are Fulton Bank, Hagel Ganson Varonis, the High Company, LNP Media Group, the Steinman Foundation, and of course, Next Book Media. And I end with Next Book Media because I'd like you to look at the beautiful booklet that you have in front of you. They put that booklet together and they did a fabulous job. That booklet is also going to be a digital link edition that you will be able to get that will be posted on the Crispus Attucks Facebook as well as the Next Book Media webpage. And I want to say something specifically about Next Book Media. This particular committee this year has been, every year everybody does an absolute fabulous job, but this was truly a true full working committee, and we just want to really I want to thank again everybody who helped to really make this event so successful. And Laura, I certainly appreciate your leadership in that capacity. Thank you. As well as, of course, Barbara Rhoda, our honorary chair. Normally an honorary chair helps send out the letters, and that's wonderful. We appreciate it. But Barbara was also a working honorary chair. So to both of these ladies, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. And actually, because I forgot to bring my 2 bags, Gerald, would you be so kind to bring me those 2 bags? Thank you. Yes. And I'd like if Barbara and Laura could just come up just for a moment. This is just a very small token to thank both of you for giving of your time, your talent, your energies, your spirit. I appreciate it immensely. And it's been a real privilege to get to know both of these ladies so well during this journey. So thank you again. Also, of course, like to thank Ron Martin, who is always so kind and generous in being our MC for our breakfast. Just a little token of appreciation. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we also had a young man sitting at the table with us, Mr. Kurt Montgomery from Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. He stands. He's the young man who had the image that is on the front of your booklet. It's a class, kind of a competition where everybody presents their material, and he was the one selected. And he actually had, I think it's so cool that a young person is able to have their actual drawing on a billboard. And so that's, at this stage of his life, I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Kurt. I'd like our board of directors, if they would just stand to be recognized wherever you are in the audience. If you would do that, I'd certainly appreciate it. And again, all of our volunteers and our staff and everybody who works so tirelessly to make this happen. Obviously, without you, this would not have been able to be the successful event that it has become. So in closing, in this new year, Crispus Attucks is continuing our journey to justice that has been a long and winding road. Along the path, glimmers of hope appear, only to sometime to be dimmed again by the ever-emerging drama we experience in America on a daily basis. The journey to justice is not a running race or even a brisk walk. The journey to justice is a crawl. Crawling, however regardless slow, is still progress. We have come so far, and turning back is not an option. In 2015, we must remain prayerful, actively engaged, and persistent to move forward. In our small section of our winding road at Crispus Attucks Community Center, we vigilantly attempting to move from crawling to walking this race for justice in our community. The struggle continues, and we don't have the luxury of sitting on the sidelines. So I'd like to end with a quote from Dr. King. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Let us take this quote to heart and today make a commitment for each of us to take a stand for equality and justice for all people. Thank you.
And thank you, Cheryl. We're going to move toward dismissal on a musical note. We're pleased to have with us this morning the members of the F&M I Have a Dream Choir, which will sing for us the song I Can't Set Down, after which we'll move immediately into Lift Every Voice and Sing, and we encourage everyone at the table to sing along. You'll find the words on the inside portion of your booklets, and we'd also like you to stand during the singing of that song. After which we'll go directly into our benediction by Dr. Stephanie Crumpton of the Lancaster Theological Seminary.
Sit down, servant, I can sit down. Sit down, servant, I can sit down. Sit down, servant, I can sit down. My soul's so happy that I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can sit down. Sit down, servant, I can sit down. Sit down, servant, I can sit down. My soul's so happy that I can't sit down.
My Lord, you know that you promised me a long white robe and a pair of shoes.
Go yonder, angel, fetch me a pair of shoes, place them on my servant's feet.
Now servant, you sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. My soul's so happy that I can't sit down.
My Lord, you know that you promised me a long white robe and a golden waistband.
Go yonder, angel, fetch me a golden waistband, place it round my servant's waist.
Now servant, you sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. My soul's so happy that I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down. My soul's so happy that I can't sit down. Sit down.
Good morning, everyone. It's always fantastic to be a part of this breakfast. We're the Music for Everyone string ensemble at Crispus Attucks. We rehearse every week there. We love Crispus Attucks Community Center, and we've been there for the past 4 years now. So before we go into Lift Every Voice, we're just going to play two of our favorite pieces. And I also want to say that these kids have been working very hard. Many of them will be performing with the Lancaster Symphony on February 22nd. So we've been working very hard on new music, but we're going to perform two of our old favorites before we go into Lift Every Voice, 1812 Overture and Medianoche.
Can we give our young people a hand again? They remind us of the work that is ahead of us. I would invite those who are willing to pray with us together. God, you are known and called by many different names. One thing we do know is that in the variety of the ways in which we call you, you have been quick to answer. The question is whether or not we will follow. We thank you for waking us up this morning with the breath of life in our lungs. We thank you for young people who remind us of the work that is ahead. They indeed will be the ones who receive the legacies that we leave behind. So thank you, God, for having them to be here, to lift their voices and share their gifts, to remind us of the work that you have called us all to do on this day and the days ahead. We thank you for our dear sister who brought a powerful message today, who reminded us that we have come a ways, but yet we have many, many more miles to go. Lord, we ask for the strength, the tenacity, the courage, the audacity to not pass by when we see something going wrong, to not count it someone else's responsibility, but we ask that you would stir up something in us that we can no longer sit by quietly wherever the place we are. It may happen on a street, it may happen in a boardroom, it may happen in a classroom, God. We ask that you would touch our hearts and move us, stir us, so that we no longer see one another as different. Distinct, yes, but not different. Help us to see one another, the God in one another, that we would provide strength and encouragement and accountability as we do this work. Help us to not only be about words. Words are good, God, and we thank you for them. Help us to not only be about words, but to be about action. Action that impacts the lives of those around us and the generations to come. Help us to move in ways that when the generations to come look back on history, that they find us struggling but prevailing on the right side of history, moving towards justice. We ask all of these things, knowing that you do grant us the power to make them so. We rest in that power as we move forward with courage, strength, clarity, justice, peace, accountability, and a love that is strong enough to tell the truth. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Crumpton, and a special thank you to the students of the Music for Everyone Strings at Crispus Attucks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming out this morning. This concludes this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast. We hope to see you again next year. Happy King Day. Also, this announcement to all the Dream Makers sponsors, please come to the Woods Room for photographs after the program. Again, all Dream Makers sponsors come to the Woods Room for photographs.